posted my last Dexcom G7 review last summer, and there have been some updates to the system since then. I've been using Dexcom CGM since 2015, and I've been using the Dexcom G7 since early 2023. And I do think it's an upgrade compared to Dexcom G6. But I'll still take any improvements I can get. And since we're now up to 6 improvements to the Dexcom G7 system, I thought I'd make a video and share the good news with you. Let's go! And the first update to the Dexcom G7 system is that it's now direct to Apple Watch. It's something that I'm quite excited about, although I won't be using it just yet. This update means that if you have an Apple Watch, you can see your Dexcom G7 readings directly on your watch without having to bring your phone with you. This update allows your Dexcom G7 sensor to connect directly to your Apple Watch through a dedicated Bluetooth connection. So that's completely independent of your iPhone. It doesn't work with all Apple Watches though. You have to have an Apple Watch 6 or later, and it has to be running watchOS 10 or later. You also need to run iOS 17 on your iPhone, and you must have the Dexcom G7 app version 2.2.1 or later. If you have all of that, it seems pretty easy to install. You just want to open your Dexcom G7 app and click Connections and then just follow the prompts. If you want to be able to use Dexcom Share or Follow, you do still need to be within 20 feet of your iPhone. As mentioned, I'm really excited about this feature, but I won't be using it. And the reason is I do not have an Apple Watch. I have a Fitbit Versa 2 where I can see my readings. I do have to bring my phone along, but it works, and I doubt I'll be splurging on an Apple Watch until this one doesn't work anymore. The second update, and this one is awesome, is the updated Bluetooth connection. If you just started using the Dexcom G7 system, you haven't had the pleasure of the constant signal loss that we had with the old versions of the Dexcom G7 sensor. I'm not saying that's been eliminated, but after they started rolling out the updated versions of the Dexcom G7 with the better Bluetooth connection in early 2024, I really think that we've seen an improvement. And Dexcom has now improved the sensor connection even further. According to Dexcom, the upgraded sensors have a 65% further range and a quicker reconnection when you get out of range than the first batch of G7 sensors. Dexcom G7 is now claimed to have a 33 feet Bluetooth range. That's 13 feet more than the previous 20 feet range. I actually think it has improved. What do you think? It's not entirely clear how you'll know if the sensor that you have is the one with a 33-foot range. But the way to know if you have one of those updated ones from early 2024 is to look at the sensor packaging. If you have one of the new sensors, it'll have an underlined LBL number. I haven't received one without an underlining in all of 2024. And the underlining of the LBL number is also relevant for the third Dexcom G7 update, because Dexcom G7 now connects with a lot of insulin pumps, and only the sensors with the underlined LBL number will connect with the Tandem insulin pumps. This is kind of old news. The integration with the Tandem T-Slim X2 pump as well as the iLet pump happened back in 2023. What is new news is that more insulin pumps have been added to the list of pumps that integrate with the Dexcom G7. First, we have the Mobi insulin pump from Tandem, and that was integrated with the Dexcom G7 on May 29th, 2024. Mobi is a small tethered insulin pump from Tandem that you can either wear on your body as a patch pump, or you can clip it onto, for example, your belt. And then we have the Omnipod 5. I know a lot of you guys have been waiting on that integration, and it has been approved. According to the Omnipod website, they've started rolling out pods that will allow for integration with Dexcom G7. The Omnipod 5 with the Dexcom G7 integration should be available at select pharmacies, and they expect full availability in the fall of 2024. It's new pods that will work with both the Dexcom G6 and G7. It's the same prescription code, so you won't need a new prescription. But if you look at the packaging, it will state if it's compatible with both G6 and G7. If you're already using the Omnipod 5, there's a free software update coming the week of July 29th, 2024 for your Omnipod 5 app to your controller or compatible Android smartphone. Omnipod does recommend that you continue to use your Omnipod 5 with your Dexcom G6 until the new pods are available at your preferred pharmacy. I find that wording a little funny. I mean, I don't have a preferred pharmacy. My insurance company definitely has a preferred pharmacy, and that's where I get my supplies, but maybe it's different with Omnipod. Omnipod promises to email all of their users once the new pods are available in most pharmacies. Okay, on to the fourth update to the Dexcom G7. We're moving fast in this video, and that is automated activity logging as well as medication logging in the Dexcom G7 app. See, it's a little fascinating because I didn't even realize that this update had happened. It was only because I was researching this video. It could be because I rarely use the locking functionality. It's a nice feature though. You've been able to manually log a lot of things for a while, such as insulin, meals, and activity. But let's say that you have a headache and also want to add the Advil that you just took. Well, you can do that now. Or maybe even more relevant, let's say that you take Ozempic. Well, now you can add that dose to your Dexcom as well. It allows you to keep all your data in one place, and also means that your doctor will have access to all of your data in one place. There won't be a need for you to keep a whole lot of paper logs. The other part of this update is automatic activity tracking, which is brilliant if you have an activity tracker that connects with Apple Health or Health Connect. Unfortunately, I don't. I use a Fitbit and I have an iPhone, and unfortunately that combination does not sync with Apple Health. Here's an overview of what works with Android and iOS. For Android, so Health Connect, devices such as Wear OS watches, Oura Rings, Fitbit, but not Garmin. For iOS, so that's Apple Health, it's Apple Watches, Garmin watches, Oura Rings, but not Fitbit. iOS users will, aside from exercise, also see their displayed steps, active minutes, and active energy in the History tab. Okay, based on this, and that I can get my blood sugars directly to an Apple Watch, an Apple Watch does start to sound really, really good. Maybe I need to start saving up for that. Moving on to the 6th update. Moving on to the 5th update, and that is the colorful overlay tapes. It's more of a nice to have fun thing, but you know what? Diabetes does not have to be boring. Go to the Dexcom design shop and you can shop all sorts of designs. These are not free though, and they do have a disclaimer in the bottom of the page. And here you can see that Dexcom decorative patches are not a replacement for the required G7 overpatch that was included with your G7 sensor. I have a hard time with the Dexcom G7 overlay tapes. Last time I wore one, I broke up in pretty uncomfortable hives. So I have not tried these, so I can't tell you how good they are. I do like to add some color to my sensors though. I use an overlay tape from Skin Grip. It does not irritate my skin, it stays on for the full 10 days, and it's easy to take off. I'll leave a link down below this video so you can check that out if you want to, and you can use my code DIABETESSTRONG for 10% off. And then we have the 6th and final update to the Dexcom G7, and that is the new over-the-counter option for people living with type 2 diabetes. Well, since it's over the counter, you don't need a prescription, so I guess it's meant for people with type 2 diabetes, but anyone can buy it. It's not the exact same product as the Dexcom G7. It's called Stelo. It has the same size, but it won't have the same alerts as Dexcom G7. It has been FDA approved and it's expected to be launched soon. What soon is a little unclear. According to the Dexcom website, it should be launching in the summer of 2024, which is now. The big differences seem to be that this sensor will last 15 days and it can only be used with a smartphone. It won't have the same advanced alert features as the Dexcom G7, and it's been approved for people living with type 2 diabetes who do not use insulin. I think it's a really interesting addition to the Dexcom CGM product line, but whether or not it'll be a success, well, I think that'll be highly dependent on how they choose to price it. I do find it interesting how Dexcom and Abbott, the manufacturer of the FreeStyle Libre CGMs, are both moving into the over-the-counter CGM space. Dexcom with its Stelo and Abbott with its Libre Lingo and Libre Rio. I know it's to give access to a broader type 2 population, but it's also to attract those people who do not live with diabetes and just want to see how their blood sugars fluctuate. It's going to be interesting to see where it goes from here. Those were the 6 updates to the Dexcom CGM system that has happened since my last review. Direct to Apple Watch, the new accuracy signal strength, Tandem Mobi and Omnipod 5 pump integration, automatic activity locking and medication locking, the Dexcom overlay tapes, and Stelo, the over-the-counter option. I don't recall earlier Dexcom versions having this many updates. I mean, I'll take all the updates we can get. Every time it makes the system better and the user experience better, I'm all for it. But it does make me wonder if they maybe rolled out Dexcom G7 a little bit too fast. I really appreciate having access to the Dexcom G7. It helps me manage my diabetes to a degree that was really challenging without a CGM. But it's not always accurate, and sometimes I have to fix the accuracy by calibrating the sensor. Check out this video if you want to learn more about when is a Dexcom considered accurate and inaccurate, and what can you do to fix it. If you like this video and if you'd like to see more from me, please subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications. That way, you'll never miss a thing. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.